She told me during my termination meeting that my approach was too old-fashioned for the company's new vision. "We need leadership that's digital first," she explained. "My name's Garrett Walsh." For the past 15 years, I led Oaklight Publishing's Midwest sales division out of Indianapolis. I built that team from scratch, transforming a struggling region into the top revenue source for the entire company. I didn't rely on fancy software or complex algorithms, just good old-fashioned relationships, handshakes, and knowing exactly what publishers needed. By last year, my division was pulling in 60% of the company's total revenue, but apparently, nobody at the executive level really noticed, at least not until those quarterly reports landed on their desks. When Veronica Bennett became CEO 6 months ago, she showed up with PowerPoint decks and a team of consultants dressed in sharp suits. Every meeting suddenly revolved around digital transformation and shaking up the traditional publishing model. She'd never worked in publishing before, came from some tech firm in San Francisco, but the board was all in on her vision. I kept my head down and kept producing results, but I could feel her watching me in every leadership meeting. I was the oldest director there, the only one still using a paper calendar and visiting clients face-to-face instead of scheduling Zoom calls. The call came on a Monday morning. Jason, her assistant, looked uneasy when he knocked on my office door. "She'd like to see you at 2 p.m. in the executive boardroom." I thanked him and went back to a call with Franklin Press, our biggest client. We were finalizing a 5-year contract extension worth $12 million, the kind of deal that came from having dinner with Thomas Franklin every quarter for the past 10 years. The boardroom had been remodeled since Veronica took over. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, and a giant digital screen replacing the old conference table. 3 people waited for me: Veronica, Jason, and someone from HR. I didn't recognize I knew what was coming before she even spoke. "Garrett, thank you for everything you've done for Oaklight," she started, hands folded on the table. "But we've decided to head in a different direction with leadership." I listened quietly as she explained how my ways were outdated, how they needed someone aligned with their digital-first strategy, someone younger. Though she carefully left that unsaid, I thanked her for the opportunity, shook her hand, and left without a word of protest. 15 years of work ended in a 15-minute meeting. What Veronica didn't get was that in publishing, especially with the old established houses that made up 80% of our business, trust wasn't built by algorithms or email campaigns. I cleared out my desk while the rest of the team was at lunch. No goodbyes, no drama, just quiet dignity. When I finally got to my car, I sat there staring at my phone for a long time. 3 missed calls from Thomas Franklin. He'd already heard the news I started at Oaklight when it was still Midwestern Literary Partners, a small operation of just 20 employees and a handful of regional clients. I'd come from Heritage Books. After they were acquired by one of the big New York publishers, I'd walked away from a corner office and a 6-figure salary because I hated what corporate publishing was doing to the industry. Robert Oaklight hired me personally. "We don't need someone who just crunches numbers," he said. "We need someone who understands that books are still made by people who care about what's between the covers." For the first 5 years, I rebuilt the division from the ground up. I drove 70,000 miles visiting every independent publisher between Ohio and Nebraska. I knew their spouses and kids' names. I went to weddings, funerals, retirement parties, not because it was some strategy, but because that's who we were. By the time Robert retired and his son William took over, we'd grown 400%. William understood the business, maybe more interested in numbers than his father, but he let me run things my way 3 years ago. When the board started pushing for outside leadership to modernize operations, William fought them. But after cancer took him last year at 58, no one was left defending the old ways. The cracks had started showing even before Veronica arrived. Board meetings were filled with words like antiquated, Questions popped up about why our team hadn't used social media or optimized CRM systems. Jacob, my assistant director, whom I'd been grooming to take over, began getting invites to strategy meetings I wasn't included in. He'd come back uneasy, stuck as the messenger. "They're talking about restructuring," he told me 6 months ago, "creating a digital sales team separate from traditional channels." I should have seen it coming. I should have noticed when they hired 3 new digital engagement specialists and put them on my team without telling me, or when they started moving my longtime clients to the new team without explanation. Thomas Franklin called me personally when they took his account. Some young guy called me one day, said he was my new account manager and that they were streamlining the customer interface or something. "What's going on over there, Garrett?" I said. "Just some reorganization, nothing to worry about." But I was worried I just didn't know how to fight a battle when I didn't understand the weapons being used against me. The day after they let me go, I sat in my home office staring at my phone. 17 missed calls, 32 texts, 6 urgent emails, all from clients and contacts who'd heard the news I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my wife Catherine, who was visiting our daughter in Columbus. I wanted to process it alone first. The call that finally made me pick up was from Thomas Franklin. "What the hell happened?" he demanded, skipping any greetings. "They're going in a new direction," I said. Repeating the corporate line, Thomas spat back. "You are that company to most of us. Do they even understand that?" I didn't answer. "I met with that new guy yesterday," he continued. "Drew something. Spent 40 minutes showing me analytics and engagement metrics. Not once did he ask about our new historical fiction imprint, the one I told you was make or break for us this year." I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "They'll figure it out, Thomas." "No, they won't," he said, "because people like that never bother to learn what really matters. They just impose their system and expect everyone else to adapt." After we hung up, I opened my laptop and looked over the severance email from Oaklight HR. 6 months' pay, 90 days of health insurance, a non-disparagement clause, and a non-compete preventing me from working with any of our clients for a full year. I almost laughed. They thought a single document could legally sever decades of relationships. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Eleanor Jenkins from Riverstone Press reaching out, another major client. Another friendship forged over years of trust. "I heard what happened," she said as soon as I picked up. "That's their loss. Whenever you're ready to talk about what's next, give me a call." By that evening, I'd heard from 12 key clients representing more than 40% of Oaklight's annual revenue, all sharing the same message. Their loyalty was with me, not the company I no longer belonged to. I sat in my backyard watching the sunset, nursing a bourbon, and turning over an idea that had started as a small seed that morning, but grew with every call they discarded me because my methods didn't fit their shiny new digital playbook, because I built relationships, not spreadsheets, because my client files were full of handwritten notes, not CRM entries. But what if those old-fashioned ways were exactly what my clients valued most? What if the very thing Veronica Bennett saw as a flaw was actually my greatest strength? I grabbed my phone and called my attorney, Benjamin Weiss. "Ben, I need you to take a look at something for me, a non-compete clause." "They let you go?" he asked, surprised. "Yeah," I said. "And honestly, I think it's the best thing that's ever happened to me." I wasn't after revenge, I just wanted to keep doing what I'd always done, helping publishers connect with the right partners. And if Oaklight no longer appreciated that, plenty of others would. That night. For the first time since the termination, I slept soundly. 2 weeks later, I met with Benjamin in his downtown office. He'd reviewed my non-compete and brought news I hadn't expected. "It's basically unenforceable," he said, sliding the document across his desk. "They made a critical error. The scope is too broad, the length too long, And most importantly, they can't stop you from using your general skills and industry knowledge. So, I could start my own consulting firm? I asked. You could, Benjamin nodded. But there's a catch. They'll sue you if you try. Even if they lose, they can drag it out and make it costly and painful. I thought it over. Oaklight had deep pockets and a board willing to fight dirty. What if I don't contact any clients directly? I asked. What if I just make myself available? Benjamin smiled. That's a whole different story. The next day, I filed paperwork to create Walsh Publishing Consultants. No website, no ads, no outreach. Just a legal entity that could receive payments and offer services. 3 days later, Thomas Franklin called. I hear you've set up shop, he said without preamble. News travels fast, I replied. In this business, it spreads like wildfire. Listen, I need help with our winter catalog strategy. Oaklight's new team wants to push us toward academic markets. But my gut says we should double down on historical fiction. I need someone who gets the numbers and the readers. I'm still figuring out my next steps, Thomas. $15,000 for 2 months of strategic guidance, he said. No direct competition with Oaklight, just helping us make smart decisions. It was a generous offer, carefully crafted to avoid breaching my non-compete. Still, I hesitated. I need to think about it. Don't take too long, Thomas warned. We're making decisions next week. After hanging up, I got a call from Jacob, my former assistant director. Can we meet? He asked quietly. Not at the office, somewhere private. We settled on a small coffee shop near Eagle Creek Park, far from downtown and the publishing scene. Jacob arrived visibly nervous, constantly glancing over his shoulder. It's bad, he said as soon as we sat in a corner booth. They promoted me to your old position, but I'm just a figurehead. Real decisions are coming from the digital team. Not surprising, I said. No, you don't get it. They're tearing down everything you built. All your major accounts are now with the digital team. They've rolled out a mandatory CRM system that none of the older reps can figure out. 3 people have already quit. I sipped my coffee, keeping calm. And the clients? I asked. Jacob glanced around again, then leaned in. They're furious. Riverstone is threatening to pull out. Thomas Franklin hasn't returned calls in a week. The quarterly projections look catastrophic. Veronica says it's just expected turbulence. He paused. There's more. They're watching you. Legal had a meeting about your non-compete yesterday. They're worried you might try to poach clients. Now I understood his fear. He risked his position warning me. Thanks for telling me, Jacob. He nodded, then slid an envelope across the table. Client contact list. Updated with personal emails and cell numbers. I didn't give you this, and we never met today. After he left, I sat for a long time, turning the envelope over in my hands. Using this info would be exactly what Oaklight feared. It would justify legal action against me, maybe even against Jacob. They'd set a trap expecting me to make a move like that. So I needed a different plan. I left the envelope untouched when I walked out. A month passed. Despite daily calls from publishers asking for help, I hadn't contacted any Oaklight clients. I politely deflected, citing professional reasons. The non-compete might be flawed, but I wasn't ready to test it. Instead, I focused on industry contacts outside Oaklight's client base, small independent publishers, university presses, literary agents seeking advice. Work that wouldn't trigger legal problems but kept me connected to the industry I loved. Then came a surprising invitation. Harold Blackwood, Oaklight's board chairman, asked to meet privately, not at the office but at his downtown club. I accepted, mostly out of curiosity. The Indianapolis Gentlemen's Association was all dark wood and whispered conversations. Harold, 70 with silver hair, waited in a private room with 2 glasses of scotch ready. Thank you for coming, Garrett, he said, motioning to the chair opposite him. I imagine you're wondering why I wanted to meet. That crossed my mind. He pushed one glass toward me. Things at Oaklight aren't going as planned. I took a small sip, said nothing. Revenue is down 38% this quarter, Harold went on. Client retention is at the lowest it's ever been. The digital initiative meant to transform our business model has instead alienated our core clients. That's unfortunate, I said calmly. Harold studied me. You don't seem surprised. Publishing is a relationship business, always has been. So, I'm learning, Harold said, leaning forward. The board's growing concerned about Veronica's leadership. Her tactics might work in tech, but publishing plays by different rules. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because we want you back, as Chief Revenue Officer, ranking above Veronica. I stared, taking it in. What about my replacement? Jacob's a good man, Harold replied, but he lacks your client connections and industry savvy, and Veronica. She'd have to accept this. His face hardened. She won't have a choice. Suddenly, it all clicked. This wasn't about quarterly numbers. This had been brewing a long time. Harold sighed. The facade slipping Veronica was William's pick. His last major call before his illness overwhelmed him. The board had doubts but deferred to William out of respect. After his passing, we gave her a chance to prove herself. She hasn't. My termination wasn't board approved. We only found out after the fact. Along with other major changes, I leaned back. Piecing it together, Veronica had been purging William's loyalists, replacing them with her own people. My firing wasn't about digital transformation. It was about removing anyone loyal to the old guard. The offer's generous, Harold continued. Double your old salary, full control over sales and client relationships, and the board's full support to rebuild your team. Everything I should have wanted: vindication, power, security. I need time to think it over, I said. Of course, he replied. But don't wait too long, things are unraveling fast. Driving home, I turned it all over in my mind. The board hadn't just realized firing me was a mistake. They'd known all along but lacked the guts to stop it now. With their profits tanking, they wanted me back. And there was more. Something Harold didn't say outright, but I understood. They wanted me as the hatchet man, to dismantle Veronica's empire and eventually her. They didn't want me for my relationship skills. They wanted my client list and the loyalty that came with it. The thought didn't anger me. It steeled my resolve. The next morning, I declined Harold's offer with a brief, polite email. Minutes later, he responded, offering an even bigger package. I didn't reply. Instead, I made 3 calls. First was to Thomas Franklin. I'm ready to talk consulting, I said, but I have a different idea. I'm listening. I won't consult exclusively for Franklin Press. Instead, I'm forming a collective, a consortium of independent publishers sharing resources, distribution, and market intel. No long contracts, no corporate red tape, just publishers helping publishers, with me facilitating connections. Silence. How many others? None yet. You're the first. Because you were my biggest client. Because I trust you, I corrected. If you think it's viable, I'll move forward. If not, I'll stick to traditional consulting. I'm in, Thomas said, and I know at least 5 others who join. Next, I called Eleanor Jenkins at Riverstone Press. She not only loved the consortium idea, but suggested adding a shared digital platform to give smaller publishers the reach of a big company without losing independence. Third, I called Benjamin, my attorney, to check the plan wouldn't breach my non-compete. You're not working for their clients, he confirmed. You're creating a new entity that clients choose to join. It's a subtle but important legal difference. Within 2 weeks, Walsh Publishing Consortium had 7 founding members, all former Oaklight clients either gone or planning to leave when their contracts expired. Each pitched in to fund my salary and the basic infrastructure. The key wasn't just building a rival. It was creating something Oaklight couldn't easily copy. A cooperative where publishers kept independence but shared resources, no CEO title for me. Just the facilitator, the connector who understood what each member needed and could provide it. We rented a modest office in Broad Ripple, away from downtown where Oaklight and other big publishers clustered. I hired 2 staff, a recent grad for communications and social media, and a veteran publishing operations manager recently retired but eager to work a little more. Word spread fast through the close-knit publishing world by month's end. 3 more publishers joined by month 2. We expanded into bigger offices. I was careful never to directly solicit Oaklight clients. No need. They came to us, drawn by success stories and frustration with the digital-first approach that ignored personal relationships at publishing's heart. 2 months in, Jacob called one evening. "They know what you're doing," he said flatly. Veronica's furious, talking legal action. "We haven't broken any agreements," I said calmly. "That won't stop her from trying." He paused. "Board meeting tomorrow. Quarterly results, it's going to get ugly." "Not my problem anymore." "I know," he hesitated, "but I thought you should know. Also, think there's room for one more in your new venture? I'm at my limit here." I smiled to myself. Everything was unfolding exactly as I'd expected. Not revenge, but because I understood the industry in ways Veronica never would. "Come by the office tomorrow," I told him. "We'll talk." The October quarterly earnings call told the real story. Numbers don't lie. Oaklight Publishing reported a 45% revenue drop compared to the same quarter last year. Their stock plunged 17% in a single day. I didn't listen in myself. I was in a strategy meeting with 15 consortium members, planning our approach for the upcoming Chicago Industry Conference. But Thomas texted me the highlights. Veronica, blaming market disruption and transitional challenges. Not a word about the elephant in the room. The company's biggest clients had jumped ship that afternoon. My phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Garrett Walsh?" a woman's voice asked promptly. "This is Patricia Harrington from the Oaklight Board of Directors," she added with a crisp formality. "I'm reaching out to notify you that the board has voted to waive your non-compete agreement effective immediately. Additionally, we've instructed our legal department to draft a cease and desist letter concerning what we consider interference with our client relationships." I let the silence stretch before replying. "Do you have any response, Mr. Walsh?" She pressed. "Just one question," I said slowly. "Have you actually sat down and spoken with your clients directly? Not via account managers or through surveys, but genuinely asked Thomas Franklin or Eleanor Jenkins why they decided to leave?" After a pause, she replied, "That's not relevant." I cut in. "It's the only thing that matters." They didn't walk away because I started something new. They left because Oaklight stopped prioritizing what was important to them. Another moment of silence passed before she said, "The board meeting is still ongoing. Perhaps you'd like to join us and share your perspective firsthand." "I appreciate the offer, but I'm currently tied up in a meeting," I responded, "with 15 publishers who have chosen a different direction." The line went quiet so long I feared the call had dropped. Finally, she said, "I understand," and then ended the call. The cease and desist never materialized. 3 days later, the Indianapolis Star's business section featured a headline, "Oaklight CEO resigns amid financial turmoil." Half a year after founding Walsh Publishing Consortium, we settled into permanent headquarters, a refurbished warehouse in Fountain Square. We boasted 23 member publishers, with several more waiting to join. Our reach had grown beyond Indiana, spanning small and mid-sized publishers across the Midwest. The industry took notice, with features in Publishers Weekly and the New York Times business section. One headline dubbed it "The Relationship Revolution in Publishing." I never intended to spark a movement. I just sought to preserve what I knew worked, but sometimes Old traditions become revolutionary once people remember their true value. On a Tuesday morning, Harold Blackwood called Oaklight had appointed a new CEO from within. The company's own veteran, "We'd like to explore the possibility of Oaklight joining your consortium," he said. Without preamble, I smiled inwardly. "That's not how this works, Harold. We don't accept members of your size." "Perhaps a partnership, then," he proposed. "I'll present that to our leadership council," I replied, though the answer was clear to me. The publishers joining us had done so specifically to escape Oaklight's corporate style. After the call, I strolled through our open office space, no executive suite for me, just a desk among colleagues where I could engage in the daily dialogue that kept us grounded in what truly matters. Jacob glanced up from his workstation. "Everything all right?" he asked. "All good," I nodded. "Oaklight wants to join the consortium," he chuckled. "Talk about coming full circle." Later that day, I drove out to Eagle Creek Park and sat by the water, the very spot I once visited to clear my mind when Oaklight's troubles felt insurmountable. But today, there were no problems to solve, just a peaceful satisfaction knowing that what I had built would endure, not because it was disruptive or groundbreaking, but because it rested on something timeless, people placing trust in those who have earned it. Sometimes, losing your job is the best thing that can happen, not as a path to revenge, but as a push to build something far more genuine than what you left behind.